Get rid of these fantasies that, some negotiating trick is going to somehow make Putin forget that he has all the cards. It was announced this week that General Keith Kellogg, former national security advisor to the vice president of the first Trump administration, is a special envoy for Trump for Ukraine when he takes office on January 20th. And a lot of people are saying this guy will come in because of all of his experience, and surely he'll help the matter.
This man will play a key role in all future U.S. negotiations. Keith Kellogg is a Vietnam War veteran who served as National Security Advisor to Vice President Mike Pence in the first Trump administration. In April, he published a strategy paper suggesting battle lines should be frozen and both sides should be forced to enter peace talks. Under his plan, any future U.S. military aid would be contingent on Ukraine joining the talks, and if Moscow refused, the U.S. would increase its support of Ukraine. As added incentive for Russia, Ukraine's desire to join NATO would be put off for an extended period.
So here's one of the first problems that I see with the elevation of Keith Kellogg. He published late spring this idea of how he would solve the Ukraine problem if he were to come in, if Trump were to win, et cetera. This is what he would advise. And you hear what he thinks is a leverage for the U.S. side is that if Putin isn't willing to negotiate the way we want, and by the way, a version of this was voiced by Sebastian Gorka about a week or so ago. If Putin doesn't play ball, then we'll come in and flood the zone. What's been given so far will be peanuts, said Gorka, in comparison to what we've done here. Kellogg had a similar comment there that we will continue to supply Ukraine with more and more weapons. That's where I got, like, were you actually a general? It says in that clip there that he was a Vietnam veteran. So he had combat experience apparently on the ground. I don't know actually what he did in Vietnam, but one would have to wonder, do you not know how war works? Because that's not, you're not going to be putting pressure on Putin by giving Zelensky more weapons, which already he doesn't have enough men to use. Russia's already more than 2-to-1 advantage inside Ukraine. All the troops that Ukraine has, especially the frontline fighters, they're more than doubled by the Russian side. And of course, they have more ammunition and everything else. We don't have that much more stuff to give. That's why this is an empty threat anyway, even at face value. We don't have, this huge amount of stuff to give. We've already given nearly all that there is. All the spare capacity is long since gone. And some of it's already cut into the bone, like long-range weapons, like the interceptor missiles. We've shown you before. We've admitted, the current administration publicly, we're threadbare on those things right now. We don't have them. Trump doesn't have them. That's not a card he can play. It's like a 2 going against a king or something like that. We just don't have it. So the fact that Kellogg is coming in thinking that that's actually something we can use is red flag number 1. Here is red flag number 2 when he was talking a week or so ago on this new Oreshnik missile.
He's used it for psychological reasons, and Jack Keane made a great comment on that. He didn't use it because it was militarily effective, because it hit a city, not very much damage there at all. But he's kind of saying to the West, well, see what I can do. And this is one where people have backed off. President Biden's backed off. When the minute he said IRBM, ICBM, nuclear war, we said, oh my gosh, we can't go there. That's when you need to lean in, because he meaning Putin, he will not start a nuclear war in Europe. And you'd remind him, let me make sure you understand, the Brits have nuclear weapons, the French have nuclear weapons, we've got nuclear weapons, don't go there. And we haven't really said that to him. So it's kind of a psychological play, and I think Jack Keane's got it right.
But why now?
Gary, go ahead and pull out of that one. That's enough there. I wanted to focus on that there. His comment that's a red flag number 2 and 3 and 4 maybe. We'll just get a bunch of them for that one. He's basically saying, Putin's never going to use nuclear weapons because we've got them too. That goes back to something we showed you that John Bolton said earlier this year, which is Putin would never use nuclear weapons because he knows that would be signing his own death warrant. Okay, you sign someone's death warrant with a nuclear weapon, there's 2 or 3 probably coming back in your direction to sign your own. See, I think that's what the part that we don't get that Putin does. I think that if Putin understands and if he uses nuclear weapons, then he is prepared for them to come back in the other direction. And that's a scary thing, because if he's consciously, correctly aware of what this may cause and still is willing to use them, that's much more dangerous than our side, who's saying, he'll never do it. Well, actually, it's not more dangerous. It's a different kind of danger. They're equally bad, because if one nuclear weapon is used, then we have the possibility of escalation that could destroy everybody. And even if it was, even if somehow, which would be the most incredibly different thing for any human on the planet, past, present, or future, if nuclear weapons start to get used and someone chooses not to continue the escalation and to allow things to sit there, that would be necessary for the survival of humanity. Maybe someone will do it. Maybe there can be the escalate to de-escalate, and it might actually work, because if one is used and then no one is willing to be saying that we're all dead, then that's not hyperbole, folks. That's reality. And the fact that he is willing to so casually dismiss that is a problem. And we're running low on time, so I actually had some other things to show, but it's just going to reinforce what we were already talking about here. We have some bad advisors in the United States, and I know Trump knows this guy. He worked with him before, and he probably has a good personal rapport. But gracious, March of 2022, 1 month into the war.
This is all about Ukraine. And Ukraine is actually winning the fight today because the Russians are stalemated. Clearly, they're digging in. They haven't made advances at all. Let's figure out a way to let this new Sparta, Ukraine, win the fight. And they can. But we just have to give them the support they need. They've asked for things we haven't given to them. We haven't given them the MiG-29s. Give them the MiG-29s. Increase the Air Force by 1/3. Create the Iron Dome over the western part of Ukraine with the S-300s. So we go to the NATO countries, 3 of them that have them, and replace those with Patriots right away. Take them out of Fort Bliss, Texas, put them in there. We say to them, okay, we're going to give you the Switchblade 600s, not the 300s, because the 600s that haven't arrived yet have Javelin warheads on them and have a range of 40 kilometers, 24 miles. We give them intelligence. We have incredible, exquisite intelligence gathering. We've got to figure a way to do it.
October of 2022.
He needs to pick up the phone. He needs to call Vladimir Putin and say quite clearly to him, look, we are going all in. We are going to provide Ukraine with every bit of armament they need to defeat the Russian army in the field and force them out of the field. And that means Crimea as well. And then you turn it over to Putin and said, okay, it's over to you now. What are you going to do? I understand the risk behind that, but we haven't done that. As was said earlier, we haven't given him the armament he needs. We haven't given him the air defense that he needs. Give it to him. Press the attack going forward. Then you basically tell Putin, it's up to you. Do you want to escalate or do you want to negotiate? And if you escalate, we're prepared for that. If you want to negotiate, we're prepared for that as well.
He was given terrible advice, things that were self-evidently not accurate at the time. And some of his advice was actually followed to disastrous results. And this is the guy who's going to be running the next one. And it just concerns me greatly to see that when Trump coming in with a good instinct, let's have a negotiated settlement to end this, he's got some very unrealistic advisors like Gorka, like General Kellogg, giving him advice that is detached from reality and may lead Trump to take actions that is not going to help the situation and could actually see it get worsened.